defend yourself? Do you point the finger? Do you attack back?
Name call, yell, bring up the past. What's your flavor?
So then make a list of those. Many of you will see probably multiple. And then it's really about, well, what would be a more mature response? And again, we're not saying that you just erase triggers immediately, like tomorrow, that they don't just disappear. But now you can start to see, from Jocelyn's point, all right, I'm getting a sense of where the emotion is coming from. I can really commit to stopping the triggered behavior. Where does that consistently come up? What's my reaction and what could I do differently? Now you have a roadmap that when it comes up in the future, you really could do something different.
And you know what's a great thing to do in those moments is actually to label it, to say, you know what, babe, I'm actually feeling triggered right now. And so you know what, I'm actually going to go cool off for about 5 minutes. It doesn't mean I don't want to hear you out. I do. And so I'm going to actually just cool off for about 5 minutes and I want to come back to this. That when I start to label you, my brain is going to find more reinforcement for that being true. It's actually going to start to look for specific evidence for that being the case.
It's going to create a confirmation bias situation.
Exactly. So it builds momentum. And then second, it also, for the partner hearing that label, so if I called you a name or I labeled you something, you are going to see me differently. I'm no longer the safe partner. I'm no longer the person that builds you up or that you can come to with anything or that you can be imperfect and we process things with or that I see you in a good light. You're now someone, or I'm someone to you that you have to protect yourself against. You have to defend your image. And that starts to impact your communication and your conflict because you're no longer even just communicating about the matter of fact or details, trying to understand each other. Now, you are trying to dodge each other's negative perception.
I would also say there's a more subtle impact on the individual that if, let's say if you label me once, this isn't going to happen. But if you label me repeatedly, then I will start to see myself that way. So I start to think, oh, I am that kind of person. So it does play a big role in your partner's self-image and self-confidence because it changes the way I see myself.
Right.
Man, maybe I am that way.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about then, okay, Freeman, so if we don't label each other, what we're going to get there. But we need to just really paint the picture of why this is damaging so that you are very motivated to change this behavior. Here's the thing. It erodes almost faster than anything, emotional safety in your relationship. And without emotional safety, you can't communicate, you can't navigate conflicts on the same team, and you won't feel safe to open up to each other. So you will start to hold things back from each other, and it just continues to create damage in the short term and the long term. You two stop being honest with each other. Stop being as authentic. You even worry, if I tell this to my partner, is it going to reinforce this label that they call me? Or now in this interaction, again, I'm like having to dodge the way they see me. So there's less authenticity, less honesty, less transparency with each other. And labels shift the dynamic from we're working through something hard together to you are the problem. It's no longer the two of us against the problem. It is you and I against each other.
Creates separation. It creates distance. And it doesn't then allow for repair, reconnection, or rebuilding of trust to happen.
So we really hope that paints the picture of how damaging it is on a deep psychological level, the emotional safety in your relationship. It escalates conflict. Like you should have all the reasons why this pattern needs to change.
I'll add one more thing too. It also, that we've seen, takes something that could have been a blip to something that you actually need to repair from now.
True.
So a lot of your tensions and early conflict cycles could be more moved on from. They could be quick acknowledgement, oh, sorry about that, and then you could move on and not have to go through a repair process, which is our 5 R's. But as soon as you label, you're now doing more damage, and that is something you need to repair from. So now you're going to have to take more time, more self-reflection, take responsibility for that, hear the impact that's had on your partner, and then really make a promise and give reassurance that that's not going to happen in the future. So it's a longer process, right? So you don't just move past things easily and quickly.
And to be very clear, Aaron and I, you and I, we do not label each other at all. Like, I was just thinking about it and I was like, we don't even say things that are like, you're such a jerk or you're so mean, like even things that aren't cuss words. There's none, because we know, again, the impact on how we see each other. So I want you to understand this is possible. And yes, we disagree. Yes, we argue, and we can argue without hurting each other, which we're going to get into. So what do you do instead of labeling each other?
Well, first of all, and we had mentioned it earlier, but you can talk about or label a behavior or an action and not the person. You're not making a characterization. And that is the best way to address behaviors and their impact and be able to make a request for change. If you talk about, again, hey, that action
is, instead of labeling your partner, get vulnerable and share what you are feeling. And this is, or feel misunderstood. Like, be more honest with what you're feeling instead of being hurtful.
And here's a little insight I just realized about that. It actually creates more of an objective truth than a subjective truth to argue with. All right, so let me tell you what I mean. So if I say create a label about you, now it's subjective. I don't see myself that way, you do, and then now we're in a back and forth. If you simply label, hey, your action and how I feel, that's objective. There's no subjectivity. It's like, when you did that, I felt this way. What is there to argue against?
Yeah.
And you can actually deal more directly with the impact rather than get into this. So often we get into this subjective opinion about, well, I disagree. I don't think so. This, that. Well, that's not needy. Oh, that wasn't unloving. That wasn't disrespectful. And it's like, look, when you talk to me that way, I feel controlled or I feel that I'm not valuable.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, shoot, I need to deal with that. That's how you feel. There's really nothing for me to argue with.
That's so true. So the third thing that you can label instead of your partner is label your boundaries, which are about you, by the way. So I want to really clarify, because people miscommunicate boundaries and they'll state things like, stop yelling at me. And they'll say, but that's a boundary is yelling. Stop yelling at me. Here's a better, more clear way to express boundaries. If you continue to blank, here's what I'm going to do. And so that can look like, hey, if you continue to yell at me in this conversation, I'm going to step out of the room. And yeah, I know that sounds bold and that sounds direct. We're not talking about in everyday interactions, like you're in the kitchen and you're like, if you're going to continue to be grumpy, I'm stepping out of the room.
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking about being like that. We're saying in more tense conversations, or where there's some real honesty that's needed with each other, which happens from time to time in a marriage, then okay, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do if this boundary keeps getting crossed. Okay, so let's actually, and here's the thing with boundaries. They protect your peace instead of punishing the other person. Here's some scripts for this. Okay, Freemans, I don't want to label my partner anymore. I understand it's impacting the relationship, them, me, all of it. Here's some scripts you want to write down and use. When you do blank, it makes me feel blank. And what I need from you is to do this instead. Or that's my request. Or if it continues, here's what I'll do. It can be a variation of those, because it's different per what you're actually saying. And so this is really, really important that you shift the behavior, because what it does is it helps you both feel as though you can communicate more proactively instead of let's fight in the moment. And this is where we express our anger at each other. And this is how, let me tell you all the things I need and I'm feeling, but in a hurtful way. And that's where I want to give you some really helpful reminders. You guys are going to want to write some of these down because these are like motivational quotes, shifts to make. Get vulnerable instead of getting mean. Share how you're really feeling authentically and vulnerably instead of saying something that's hurtful to your partner. Say what you feel without turning it into an attack. Name the impact, not their character. Be honest without being hurtful. Clarity creates connection. Labels create distance. So those are just some quotes you want to write down, maybe tattoo one on your wrist to remember.
So though it may have seemed simple to just not label your partner, we really wanted you to understand the impact so that you really commit to removing this behavior. Because though labeling in the moment brings a sense of relief to yourself, it really does erode the connection and it has the cost of emotional intimacy. The more you do it, then the less safe your marriage becomes. And it does become, as we mentioned earlier, harder and harder to repair and then harder and harder to rebuild the longer that this goes on. And your marriage really does deserve honesty. You get to say to each other what's negatively affecting you, what unmet need you have, what requests you have, any new agreements. You get to have these conversations, but it can all be done with kindness.
It really can. Deeply impactful. Like, this is an episode that we do hope awakens you in a way that it is sobering, that it is getting your attention, because it is one of the most damaging things that you can do in your relationship. And we really need you to get that. Remember that instead of labeling each other, you can label your feelings, your boundaries, and how their behavior impacts you.
Down completely. You're giving them the silent treatment. You are not actually working on you for you to be healthy. And it's not about, oh, well, I'm just going to be the healthy one and I'm just going to let this person poo all over me. No, you're being healthy so you can sit in a space of being the healthy adult. And the reason why this is so helpful is, number one, I think you'll be able to talk to this person in a different way to possibly get a different result. It doesn't mean that they're going to change who they are and all of a sudden heal themselves. No, but you will get a different result from this person. They will learn that they can't do this with you because you're setting boundaries, because you're healthy. You communicate in a healthy way. That's step one. The second step is, by you being the healthy adult, you will start to be so unattracted to someone who is not on your level anymore. So now you're outgrowing this person. And when you outgrow this person, you don't play the game that you used to play with this person of, okay, you're going to say this and it's going to hurt my feelings and then I'm going to shut down and then I'm going to do that. The cycle of abuse absolutely stops because you're no longer participating in that cycle, because that's not how you live your life. This also, number three, it helps to train you to be the person that you need to be to have the relationship that you say you want to have. So you say you want a partner that's like X, Y, and Z, but you need to be that person too. So if you make your list of all the things that you want in a partner, and one of the things is, I want someone who, knows how to communicate. Well, everyone thinks they know how to communicate, but they don't, because when they communicate, they come with anger, they come with resentment, they come with control, they come with manipulation, then they shut down, then they're passive aggressive, then, they project all of their stuff onto them. There's no accountability whatsoever. So if you say you want that kind of a partner, you need to be that kind of a partner. And you can be it right now with who you're with. It doesn't matter how toxic they are. If anything, the person that you're with, and it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It could be your sister. It could be the girl at work. It could be anyone. Focus on one person that you really want to practice this stuff with. And just, that's it. This is your daily practice, is being able to interact with this person. And it doesn't mean, okay, I'm going to welcome this person into my life if they're really toxic. No, we don't have to always be inviting them over for Sunday dinner. But when you are around them, how do you respond? How do you behave? Being very self-aware of yourself when you are going toe-to-toe with this person.
That you need to be responsible for your reactive behaviors. it contributes to so many cycles and patterns that affect your connection and create unnecessary conflict. The behaviors that you do not take responsibility for, and to Erin's point, you blame your partner for, they keep you stuck in loops. That can be recurring conflict cycles, like the same old pattern always plays out. It can even feel like deja vu. It depletes your partner's love account. When you don't take ownership for your behaviors and how it impacts your partner, it can empty their love account in one big argument, frankly. And it leaves your partner feeling unsafe and unseen.
It's just the trap. And this is going to be one of the deeper episodes that we talk about. We're not going to have this be long. But when you really think about that, you're wanting a pleasant experience in your marriage. And so that's an internal state. Then as we talk about this, it seems obvious that what you should be focusing on is the internal world, and what you can control is you creating that within yourself. If you try to have a pleasant experience by controlling outside factors, it's a lose game. If you take it further and are trying to change your internal experience by putting all of the responsibility on your partner for the experience that you're having, you will be in a very hard marriage. It's going to feel discouraging to your partner. It's going to erode trust. You're not going to have the safety. And at the end of the day, you're trying to change something internal from the out. And it doesn't even really make sense. So when you flip that around, think about the type of person and partner you become. And that's really where we want to go today. It's that if you focus on the internal, that you can create the pleasant internal experience of within yourself and really within the marriage, then it doesn't matter as much what happens externally. It can be external stresses like finances, parenting, health issues, people passing, economy, and world things changing.
Even a tone of voice, a look.
Well, that's where I was going to get. Then your partner can look at you a certain way, bring up a triggering topic, can ask you to make a change, but you've already handled the internal state. It is going to alter the external situation. And imagine, if it's not you, imagine being with a partner that whatever you bring to them, whatever life is facing, whatever life brings up for you, that your partner is grounded, is certain, is at peace within themselves, then that's a partner you can find a much better solution with than if one that's reactive, chaotic, defensive, blames you, and is trying to control everything.
Now, to be very realistic, we are not trying to portray that Erin and I are never reactive.
Oh, this is a good point for you to bring up. This is the ultimate life focus. And then we are not saying that we have mastered this.
No.
It might take a few lifetimes, but this is really something to shoot for.
And something we're focused on. And both of us are committed to. And we'll be getting into the specific steps here in a moment. But we both have a commitment to recognizing when we are in a more reactive state and not just letting that persist, not just blaming that on external circumstances, but saying, you know what? I've noticed I've been in a more reactive state. I'm catching that myself. It doesn't even require you to bring it up. From time to time, sure, you're the one that's like, hey, and same thing for me to you. Like, hey, it feels like you've been a little bit more short, a little more reactive. You okay? Like we can check in, but it's even better in your relationship if you are the one that catches it with yourself.
So this really is the deep personal work that we all go through, that we invite all couples to go into. And so as you take us into the steps here, really what we're talking about is how to become less emotionally reactive. That your fight is not against your partner, and your fight is not against the external situations that you face. Your fight is against your default emotional reactions.
That is so well said. Okay. How do you become less emotionally reactive? We're going to walk you through some steps. So step 1 is identify where you currently feel pain or tension. And we don't mean in this sense a literal pain like your knee or your hip. Like definitely go get checked out if that's the case. Like go to a chiropractor or something if you are feeling that. We're talking.
I've been doing acupuncture. That's good too.
Yeah. I mean, we are all about those things. We're talking about emotional pains, stressors, tension that are existing within your life. So you can ask yourself, what's a situation right now that's bothering me? Is it work? Is it your career trajectory? Is it your relationship to your children? Is it your personal health? Is it a relationship with a family member? Is it that you're stressed out about world events that are going on? So what is it that is bothering you? Second, what are you feeling about that? And you got to label it, right? Just saying I'm angry. Anger is the tip of the iceberg. It really is. Like think about, that's just what you see a little bit above the water. Beneath the anger is what is below the water. It's what requires you to get more vulnerable. Beneath anger is usually some sort of fear, feeling hurt, feeling sad, insecure, vulnerable, unloved, not good enough.
Impulse towards immediate gratification even.
It can be any of those. You've got to put a label on it. What is the feeling? Let me label it and let me not just use generic things like I'm frustrated or I'm angry. Dig deeper than that.
And a part of why we bring up that it can be in other areas of your life is because that's affecting your reactive behaviors that show up in the marriage too. So how often do you feel as a partner that you're getting a poor response from your partner that seems that it's not even related to you? And many times it's not. That we really need to address these emotional reactions within us, whatever they are, because we know in psychology we have the idea of emotional crossover. Like if I'm feeling something, fear, lack, insecure, I feel a lot of doubt for our future, that is going to translate. You're going to feel it. Your partner's going to feel it. And it is going to alter your behavior to be more reactionary. So that's why it's important to look at whatever the pain is, like Jocelyn said, and that point is to bring awareness to it. Now, the second part is once you've identified it, you've given a label to that reactionary emotion, then this is more of a simple part. Write out what is the default reaction I act on. What is the impulse? What do I immediately do? Now, a deeper level is that you're often taking that action to try to alleviate this feeling within you. And it's important to know that, right? Because if the whole game is to have a more pleasant internal experience, your quick response to your partner, your impulse to eat, your sitting on the couch and not doing what you said you're going to do with your responsibility at home, scrolling your phone, maybe not so much that one, but all of those other ones are, I'm going to take a fast reaction to try to get myself into a more pleasant experience.
I do think the phone actually can be one.
Oh, yeah.
To dissociate, to kind of like alleviate yourself from the present moment. I absolutely think that can be one.
Yeah. So this one's more simple. Again, write out what is it that you then immediately default to.
This is a deeper question. What do I gain from that behavior? And I know that sounds odd because, okay, I'm identifying a behavior that is actually not productive, maybe not even healthy, but it's definitely not producing the result I want in my life and in my relationship. What do you gain? Do you gain temporary power? Do you avoid vulnerability? So it's like a protective mechanism. Well, I gain self-protection, self-preservation. I protect my ego. So what is it that you gain? Do you gain false confidence?
Ooh, wow.
Or certainty, like you're reaching for certainty, but it's false. It's not real because you're just reacting in that moment.
That's right.
I want to go to the next step because this is really my favorite step of it all.
Well, now you have a roadmap. you have to ask yourself the question, if this is what it's costing me, are you willing to have false security and temporary alleviation of pain for the long-term trust, love, trustworthiness, count on ability, harmony and peace in the long term?
Okay, to make it very clear, that next step is asking yourself, what is it costing me? Okay, so
and are you willing to continue to pay that price? Now, what we're saying is, we know that you're not. But you have to see this down on paper, and you have to see this in your own life. Because once you get to this step, we know the answer for all of you is no. I'm not willing to keep paying that price and sacrificing our closeness, our connection, our love within our marriage. And now that's the change. That right there is what's going to give you the awareness and the willpower when this comes back up in your life next, because it will. You haven't changed that yet. So now let's go to the next step. Now it's going to happen. The same situation is going to present itself. Your internal state gets disturbed. You want to blame external forces to try to temporarily bring back that inner peace, but we know that that's false. And now you know you're not willing to continue to pay that price. So you have to pause, and now you can see it, and now you can choose to take an action that's going to better serve that long-term value, that long-term commitment, rather than continue to make these impulsive, immediate gratification sacrifices.
This is switching from being a reactive person and partner to a responsive. I am going to respond to this situation, to this person, consciously, intentionally aligned with what I do want in my relationship. And yes, that takes restraint. Yes, that takes self-control. Yes, that takes emotional maturity. That's why you're listening to this podcast, because we're on this journey with you. So I'm pausing from this pattern, continuing to play out. I'm no longer willing to pay that cost that we talked about, and I'm going to instead respond. What does that look like? The next step. And the way you worded this, it could be, people can say it differently, but the way you put this was, how can I bring more light into this moment? Another way could say, what's a more productive choice in this moment? What is actually more aligned with what I value and what I want in this area of my life, or with this person? We're talking about your partnership on this episode, but it could also be your kids. Yeah. So what is actually more aligned with what I want with that person or that area?
And at this point, we leave you to try this out in your life. We can't give you the particular step here, but why I like, what can I do to bring more light? I can think of that more quickly. I don't have any preconceived notions about light. Like, it's already just light in terms of weight, in terms of the visual. Light is light. So how can I bring lightness? How can I make this lighter? How could I bring more compassion? How can I bring more understanding? How could I bring more love? How can I bring more curiosity? So the thing that will be required in the moment for you to be more responsive, we don't know. But I think if you ask, how can I bring more light to this? Then you'll understand the context of the situation and who's involved, whether it's your kid or your child. And then your mind will go and briefly search for an answer. How could I bring more light? Well, who am I with? My spouse. Well, it seems like maybe they're hurting. Okay, so bringing more light, I could reduce my stance. I was about to be defensive. I was about to point out where they didn't keep their word. But man, it seems like my partner's in pain. Let me just put my hand on their shoulder. And it has typically been triggering. Then just letting them know that it doesn't have to be one-sided, that I'm not going to spend the rest of this conversation coming down on you. It's not going to be all about being critical of you, the things that you need to change. So I would like to go first because this is a topic that I'm bringing up and it's important to me. You were off, doing something else. So like I'm driving this conversation, and often it means you have something important you want to share. So what we're saying here is to help navigate a partner's trigger is to just let them know, hey, and I'd really like to go first on this topic. I shared the positive intent, but by the end of it, I would also like to hear from you.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some things, there may be some things for you. So, you'll have that time as well.
I think that what's really key about what you said is this isn't an exact science. It's not that you always have to have your partner go first or that you're always the one. It's that you're showing up with the energy of, I want both of us to feel understood. And it's not about either one of us being right. That's actually what can have things spiral into a conflict, is if it now becomes a debate about whose perspective is right or wrong. This is very much like, hey, let's understand each other's perspective and ultimately come out with a win-win understanding or outcome. So
Yeah.
It's all about the energy.
Yeah,
at
definitely.
this
Definitely.
point.
So let's give you the third point here in how to navigate your partner's triggers. The third one being that you also need to have a separate conversation about triggers, not just getting into the topic itself. So if parenting, if finances, if intimacy is the topic that has been triggering, there's having that conversation. But now what we're inviting you into is having the broader conversation about why and what is triggering to each of you. So you might just say, similar to the shared positive intent, but you don't dive into the subject. It's saying, I know what's important for both of us is really feeling like we can make progress, that we can handle challenges together. And I think there are certain topics or subjects that end up being triggering for both of us. Let's have a conversation about that, just so that we can really move those roadblocks out of the way and have the conversations, have the topics come up that are usually triggering, and maybe they can be less triggering. Maybe they're not going to be triggering at all. I would love to be able to get to a place where things aren't as triggering to either of us.
Yeah.
And so where we might go from there is, we both in for that conversation? Yes. All right. Why do you think, or what do you think some topics are that are triggering for you? And like, what is it about that, that you feel usually?
Yeah. I mean, this is just such an important conversation that needs to start as early on in your relationship as possible. People don't bring that up necessarily early on in the dating stage, but it'd be a good idea. Because again, you don't just marry each other's strengths. That was the first thing that we said. You do marry each other's fears, insecurities, wounds from the past, and triggers. And so again, we're going to get to the second part around being responsible for your own triggers, because it's not about tiptoeing around each other. But I think you and I know each other's triggers really well. Therefore, we can be conscientious of that when we bring up topics and how, and we're not poking them, right, or being insensitive.
Yeah,
So
good point.
that's the intimacy that we need to have in a partnership, is acknowledging, okay, there are triggers, and I'm not taking responsibility for their triggers, but I'm being conscientious of it.
It also reminded me to say that you need some self-honesty about your own triggers. You have triggers.
You do, everyone.
I mean, I don't know. We've maybe come across some people that say, I'm not triggered. I'm thinking now of a few. They're even saying it in anger. I don't have any triggers. It's like, wow, really? I mean, pretty sure you do here. So really just being honest that both of you have triggers. There are conversations to have around this. There's, really places to understand each other, and that's the place you want to come from as you move forward. So let's move to the fourth topic here, and really navigating your partner's triggers. And that is to lead with curiosity and not control. So you are not trying to fix them. You're trying to understand them, control you, but let me understand you, and then we can come to a mutual understanding of what a better action or behavior would be to take so we can handle these topics better.
I think the only thing I'd add to that point is that people can feel if there's judgment present.
That's a good point.
And if you two are judging each other's triggers, again, you're eroding that emotional safety. And this is all about creating that emotional intimacy, that emotional security. So it's a space of non-judgment, of true curiosity. And okay, let's let's work through these triggers together. We're partners. And so I think this is going to be a good segue into the next section, because I know a lot of people.
And you hijack and take over the conversation with your own upset.
Yep.
When here your partner was driving a conversation, could they do it better? Yes. That's what the first part of this whole episode was about. But here you are, and you need to recognize that your partner is driving this conversation. It's not now your time to take it over, make it about you, and now throw all of your unexpressed upsets, your complaints, your unmet needs on top of them trying to bring this up to you. And when you really think about it, it's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
If you had something that you needed to bring up, you should have done it. You should have had the assertiveness or the level of proactive communication, the self-awareness to bring that up beforehand. So when your partner brings up something, it's not your time. It's not your time to take over the conversation and say, well, that's because you don't do this and you don't respect me and I only do that because you try to control me. Wrong. You're now triggered, and this is the part you need to be responsible for.
Escalates these conversation, and both of you walk away misunderstood and feeling disconnected. And when Aaron's describing
Let me be honest about that. Probably hurt even more.
For sure.
Mad, angry. I tried to bring this up with you. It was even a calm manner. You got angry and attacked me, and now we're in a worse off place than where we started.
Because what's happening so often is we're having feelings about our partner's feelings.
Right.
What you just said, even if it's a reasonable experience, because again, we're going to be frustrated in a marriage from time to time. We're human beings, but you brought up something that you were feeling in an area of our relationship. And now I have feelings about your feelings. I take personal offense to how you feel.
And I take priority because now my feelings are more important.
Right.
So I take this over.
And that is how you train each other to say, I can't bring things up in this marriage. And that is a recipe for disaster and really destroying your relationship. Because again, this is all about creating that emotional safety and that you can tackle the real, honest, and sometimes hard conversations that need to happen. So to Aaron's point, you have to realize you're tempted to take over the conversation. You have feelings about their feelings, but you take a breath. Okay, they brought this up. You're coaching yourself. They brought this up. I'm going to listen to them first. Let me hear them out. Okay. All right. Let me make sure before I go, I want to make sure I understand your perspective. This is where you could mirror back if you've heard about mirroring, right? Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that you have felt blank in the area of finances or parenting. Is that right? That is so helpful to make sure your partner feels understood before now you share your perspective. Now, you probably aren't going to be able to do the second step at that time in the conversation. So it might be, all right, you know what? Actually, I just want to digest what you shared with me. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm going to, contemplate that. I'm going to chew on that. And if you notice you got triggered by something they shared, now you go and do some reflection. I don't want to lash out on my partner right now. I'm probably too emotional to process the trigger. So I'm going to take some space and I'm going to ask myself a few questions. What did I make that mean? My partner said something. They expressed a feeling, they expressed a need, they expressed something they'd like to change. What did I make that mean? For example, did I make that mean it's never good enough? Is that what they said? No, they didn't say that verbatim. They said they'd like something to shift or to be different, which again is normal. That's a normal part of marriage. So what did I make it mean? That's a really important question to ask yourself. Maybe even write it out. Then take it deeper. Where have I felt this before? Does this feel familiar to a past relationship? Or is it even before that? Does that actually feel like something that originated in my childhood experiences? Because there is some origin story to your triggers. And that's the self-awareness we need to have, is that what is coming up in our partnership is not just a reflection of us. It is mirroring to me things that are even from my past. Yeah. Therefore, I can't keep blaming my partner for them.
Yeah, triggers are a lot about self-awareness and then self-control. So let's move to the third point here. You really hit on tracing the origin of the triggered emotion. And the next part is really about identifying the patterned behavior, or as we started this episode, labeling as the triggered behavior. And this is the point where you have to realize that you can take ownership of your triggered behavior and have the self-control and the willpower to stop doing damage to your partner, to stop hijacking conversations that they bring up to you. And you can do that before you've really unraveled the deeper emotional source of where this comes from. So what you brought up is like the longer term work. The short term work is, look, I can just commit to you that I'm not going to just trigger. I'm not just going to let myself react, to you. So you want to then make a list of, all right, if I'm looking at the patterned or triggered behavior, then what actions or what events do I notice consistently trigger me? And as you brought up again, apparently it's my face.
Is just one of them.
But yeah, you might now write out that maybe there are certain subjects, maybe there's times of day. That's a real one.
Yeah.
It's like if my partner is bringing up things at 9 p.m. when I'm trying to go to sleep, then maybe it just has a lot to do with where your energy capacity is. And then you get frustrated because, oh, you know what I make that mean is they're not at all conscientious or seem to care about the day that I had. And it's 9 o'clock. They don't see me getting ready and they want to bring this up now. And then you're triggered. So the trigger is really about them not being considerate of you, maybe that they don't care about you. And it might just be really that you don't have the energy for it.
Yeah.
So make a list of these events that consistently trigger you. And then what is your go-to behavior? Is it to shut down? Is it you're quiet, you withdraw, then you avoid them, you kind of isolate, you go do your own thing, you don't talk to them, you like walk past each other in the kitchen? Is it that you get sharp? Do you quickly defend yourself? Do you point the finger? Do you attack back?
Name call, yell, bring up the past. What's your flavor?
So then make a list of those. Many of you will see probably multiple. And then it's really about, well, what would be a more mature response? And again, we're not saying that you just erase triggers immediately, like tomorrow, that they don't just disappear. But now you can start to see, from Jocelyn's point, all right, I'm getting a sense of where the emotion is coming from.
Really quickly, why you two invalidate each other's feelings comes down to you weren't taught how to handle emotions. And so it is a protection mechanism, a defense mechanism for, I don't want to feel like I disappointed you. And so I'm going to say it's not valid. I don't agree. Here's why your feeling doesn't make sense, or you should get over that. Again, just because as human beings, we weren't taught to embrace them, and we think that we shouldn't have them and we should just feel better and move on, right?
I also would add, for men specifically, and I think all human beings, again, in a partnership, don't point the finger at me saying what I did is having you feel that way.
True that.
So that's just the other aspect of it, right? Yes, there's like kind of invalidating them because we don't have the capacity to hold that emotion, but it's also like, don't blame me for what you're feeling in a sense, right? So I want to then take that to the next level. So we get like what invalidating feeling sounds like by a partner, what those two causes were. But now let's talk about from your perspective, when that's happening, when I say things like, that doesn't make sense. How are you feeling that? That's not what I said. That's not what I meant. Those things like that, which invalidate your feelings. Now, what's the impact of that?
I mean,
for you?
For me, the impact is just not feeling like partners, not feeling like it matters. And when I feel invalidated, which is, again, something we're ongoingly always discovering this, what it feels like is, oh, my feelings don't matter. I don't feel understood. And it creates an energy block and I feel disconnected. Now, we catch it really fast, which is what you're going to hear a theme of our whole podcast is not that you're going to become perfect at all of this. It's how quickly can you catch it and then talk through it. But it's just really feeling invalidated is like it doesn't matter and get past it.
Yeah, let me ask a question. Would you go as far as saying if your feelings don't matter, which is what you just said, does that mean that you don't matter?
Ooh, wow, that's deep. I guess I haven't put that language to it to myself, but I have heard people say that. You know, I've heard people say, well, it feels like I just don't matter that much to you. So perhaps that is like one of the foundational feelings that are there for people, because that's what we want. We want to matter to our partner. And part of mattering to our partner is having our feelings get acknowledged. And actually, it leads me to the next point, right? So if part of the cause is that we weren't taught as human beings and in our culture to handle and embrace emotions, why we invalidate each other. You hit on them a couple ways, but I want to make sure they're really clear. So it's a defense mechanism to do one of three things. And I'll have you elaborate a little bit more on these, but it's avoid feeling like you hurt or disappointed your partner. I want to ask you more about that because that's powerful. Second one, avoid feeling like you did something wrong. And third, to escape your own feelings. So I want to make sure those were really clear for people. Going back to the first one, you talked about it being a defense mechanism to not feel like you hurt or disappointed your partner. Tell me more about that.
It's not the conscious reason why people do this, why I would say that doesn't make sense. That's something for you to work on. That wasn't my intention. Get over it. You always do that. So that's another one, right? But it's underlying. So you have to go a level deeper. And it's, well, why would I say those things back? Or why do I then like leave the room? Or why do I leave you to deal with it on your own? It's because a level under it is that, I mean, look, it's vulnerable for me to feel like I disappointed you. And that would be sad to me. Here I am, I took an action and it had you feel hurt. It had you feel disregarded. It had you feel undervalued, devalued, not that you don't matter. And if I have to look at that and own that I caused that, I mean, that's sad. Here you are, my partner. And obviously we're saying this for all the audience. Like, you know, when we say our own stories and examples, the point for the audience is to like look for yourself, which I think naturally telling stories does that. But that's what I'm avoiding. I'm avoiding the level of sadness, the level of disappointment in myself of causing those things to you. But that's not what the conscious part of it is. Most of the things that we do, actions we take, things we say to our partner are not really conscious.
Oh, yeah. We're not sitting there going, I'm going to invalidate my partner because I don't want to feel like I disappointed them.
Oh, yeah. I know I'm going to feel really sad here, but I'm going to invalidate them instead of doing that.
But you're right. It is unconscious. We do it's almost like fight or flight. When you're in a fight or flight response, you're not choosing how you're reacting. It's just all of a sudden you're feeling like, oh my gosh, my partner's sharing emotions. I don't like that. I must have done something wrong. This is going to be my unconscious reaction. I wanted to share something. So when I've been doing work.
Well, I want to add one thing.
Okay.
Because I do like this one. Fight, flight, everyone knows that, but freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. And I say that because we talked about emotional triggers on the last one. I typically go to the freeze. Like, I don't fight, meaning I don't get assertive. I don't, like, lash back. I don't, that's fight, flight. I don't just leave anymore, right? I know there are guys that will just leave the room, go for a drive, go for a walk. I'm pretty much the freeze person. So I, like, just say nothing, mostly, right? Like a very very reactive place. So I just wanted to add that. So fight, flight, or freeze is also another possible one, just because I know you probably experience me probably being in the more freeze area.
Yeah, good point. I like that. So yeah, going back to what I was going to say, when I'm in those moments, one of the things I've really had to work through is when you're sharing emotion that does feel like it's something I contributed to. You know, it's like, hey, when you did this, I felt this. Now, I know we work on our language a lot. That's something we've talked about throughout multiple podcast episodes about how to say things where it's not pointing the finger, it's not attacking, but sharing from an I perspective. When I hear you saying that, I really have to catch my brain and go, I don't need to invalidate his experience. Like, I don't need to defend myself. Like, he's just sharing emotion and that's okay, even if I was a part of it. And that's really taken me slowing down and realizing that I may have done something that quote unquote disappointed you. You know, okay, I said something that hurt you, disappointed you. I don't need to now go on defense and go, I did something wrong, so I'm going to make you wrong. Right, justify. It's just, oh, wow, okay,
Yeah.
how I said that, what I said, that had an impact on you.
Yeah, it's hard to own that. I think that's one of the biggest things. It's just it's hard to own those places, which may lead us into the second reason why we do this.
Well, I think I think we've covered the reasons we do it mostly. Is there any more reason that you think? Okay, yeah, I think we covered really like it being a defense mechanism. We don't really have the emotional awareness. We weren't taught about it, and we're avoiding hurting our partner or feeling like we disappointed them. Now, just to cover a couple more ways that you can invalidate, trying to fix it. This was one we got multiple messages was like, I feel invalidated when they totally step over my feelings and they just try to fix it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. You could talk about it too if you
Sure.
had something you wanted to say.
Well, I noticed that we, again, talk to a lot of couples and they say they will totally step over acknowledging what I'm feeling and instead go to, fine, I just won't do that next time. Or
Right.
fine, I'll just go do this. And they're like, okay, thanks for the solution, but you
yeah.
didn't say, hey, I understand that made you sad. Or, hey, I understand you're feeling bad right now. And that, I think, is a big one. I think it's sneaky, but it's trying to just fix it, stepping over the feeling.
It just made me think of this because we today, and I will say to all the audience members, it's like, where do we get this stuff? Is this just things we picked up other places? It's like, no, we actually experience these things. So when we ask for questions from you, the audience, to submit questions and topics, we really end up experiencing that week. And I think that we share from such a authentic place because I'll go back to today. We sat outside in the morning. We actually woke up earlier today at 5 a.m. and ended up sitting outside for an hour sharing what we each were experiencing. And it took a moment like for us each to share, for each of us to listen, understand the feeling. Then it's like, then I got a chance to go. Then we were both feel understood. Then we start to share like, okay, well, what's next? But to your point, why fixing? Number one, I think it's because it seems too slow sometimes. You feel like you're in a sense wasting time. We need to get to the action. We need to find a solution. Let's move forward. And
I got a to-do list. I got to get on with my day.
Absolutely, yeah. If you have kids, if you have roles and responsibilities, if you have work, we do live in a society and in a modern marriage where we're supposed to be in action, and activity is how we feel achievement.
You kind of find your way in it, right? Still hard. You got to do conflict resolution, all
Do you
that.
know anybody? I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I have. That is funny.
Sorry.
That is funny, but
Sometimes I have to add a lightheartedness to some of these topics because, it gets heavy.
and then I answer you seriously. Yes,
Right.
I have. In fact, it was
Yep.
But I think I've learned that I spent a lot of my time spinning over relationship stuff that I didn't need to, and God wasn't telling me to.
True.
God wasn't leading me to do anything about it. Just let it be. Just let it be. Oh my goodness, but I'm going to lose him as a friend. What? We're so busy trying to control our life and try to fix things. And there's a statement Jesus said, I'll use in this context. If you try to save your life, you're going to lose it. Just lose your life for my sake, you're going to find it. What's the principle there? It's the principle of just letting go of the pressure of wrapping your arms around stuff, including relationship stuff. And if you feel like your parents are unreasonable, they're not willing to talk, just let it be for now. Just let it be. Now, if you're healing from stuff from your parents and they're willing to talk, like, hey, we don't really get it.
That's amazing. Can they be my parents?
Okay. Now, you asked me, do those people exist? Yes.
About life. I would share whoever I was talking. I would share things. Not a good thing to do. And you were the opposite because you had been in ministry since you were 17. I didn't really understand these things. I thought everyone was just going to love me. But here's the thing. I'm kind of babbling, but
we were okay with that though. I was okay with that because when I got married to you, I did not want the pastor's wife that's playing the piano sitting on the side.
I can't sing. I cannot hold a tune. So.
She was like, I can't sing. I'm like, perfect. That's amazing.
Right.
I'm joking, but there was, my expectation was that you were to be you. And the expectation in most churches is like, there's the pastor and his wife really just needs to be 100% just supportive, on looking, happy, saying nice things and just being that like supportive, always glowing all the time kind of thing. It's a very dysfunctional pressure because he's got to do everything and she's got to be amazing in everything.
And protect the castle. She has to protect it all.
Yeah.
And be a representation of him, all of those things. I struggled with that for a bit because I didn't fit that mold. However, because of everything we've seen, your role in a lot of the behind the scenes things and helping other churches, I've seen the gamut of pastors' wives and how things have been processed. It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. And so I carried that a lot with us when we were pastoring, in having my own voice, something you never stifled. You were, like you just said, you were always like, you be you. And if there's anything that I say off color, we'll talk later.
Right. The way you describe yourself, I would.
Sometimes I'm too hard on myself.
Yeah, I would disagree with a little bit because you're like,
Yeah.
you made it like you were just like this open faucet all the time, and I don't think I like just spewing out all that. I don't
At
think.
first, I kind of was though, like when we were dating and like.
Okay.
Because I carried a lot of rejection, so there was a part. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I think that I look especially at the time when because that was when we first met. I was working on staff at a large church.
Yep.
Then when we got married. Years later, we had our own church.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of like two different dynamics there. But I'll insert this thought. You tell me what you think.
Okay.
I think this question really comes down to value system, because the value system of the modern day
Yes.
church is, I don't care what anybody puts on paper. I don't care what they put on your job description. The practice is church first. Everything is after that.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says in your job description. It could be number one, your family needs to be a priority. You need to make sure. I don't care. It's
not
written on
done.
paper. It doesn't mean a thing to me. In application, church comes first.
Yeah.
And that drives everything else. It does. So we really halted the brakes on the train and said, first of all, we're not going to do as much as other churches do. And second, we're going to ask every question through the flow of our family.
Right.
And in the last year of having that church, we could no longer do that fruitfully. It was like just the wave of dysfunction, neediness, and demands were trying to overtake that value system. Mm-hmm. And it's a fight because the culture pulls on you. And so I think that's really what it comes down to. And that's a joint value system. So we had an interesting setup to this day. We talk about the things that we're doing. Mm-hmm. We talk about everything, right? So we're a team in this, even though you may see me on the videos,
Mm-hmm.
me writing the books, yes, I spend a lot of my working hours. She works with me, but we're a team on where we're headed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
every decision I make for content, we sit down, we talk about it. I'll run strategy. Now, you're not really like a strategy kind of person. Mm-mm. I am, but I give her and she gives me feedback, and we do things as one, right? So if there's going to be health for a couple in a church, they have to first be as one in how they're operating.
Right.
And is the church culture making room for that? Most of the time, it's not. I'm not talking about on paper, or they said in a meeting, or they did a sermon series on, hey, happy marriages. I'm talking about a true value system.
And I would say this. I'll be careful with my words about what I feel about how the church operates. It is very difficult, I think, to have a pastor and his wife, their family, their life be the focus, and ministry flow out of that, and have a big church. I don't know how you do that without something being sacrificed.
Right.
The current church model is very, very, very unhealthy because of everything I've seen. Like I said before, we've seen everything, okay? I struggle a lot. Mark and I have these conversations. We've had them many a times over the years with the fallout that we see from where the addiction of ministry, and yes, It is an addiction.
Yeah.
It is a drug like none other. When you have people in the church worshiping the pastor,
Right.
it's a drug addiction.
Right.
I'm sorry. I am going to say it that strongly.
Yeah.
And men who already struggle a lot with their identities, rejection, all those things,
Right.
now get into a pastoral role where they're elevated.
And it feeds them.
It feeds a monster inside of them.
Yep.
And you have these women emotionally falling in love with pastors.
Right.
It is very dangerous what's happening in congregations these days. And I'm sorry, sometimes I get harsh about it, but it's the truth. It is what's happening. And you have to work really hard as husband and wife, if you're leading a church, that you are the focus. And that is my strong recommendation of, if that's not going on, sit your spouse down and say, we need to make this flowing out of you and I. And if we aren't right, then we need to take sabbatical time. We need to get ourselves right, because that should be first. Period.
When I walk in,
Sorry,
when
was
I
that
walk
too
in,
much?
don't ever apologize for that. That's great. That's great. I love it. When I walk into a church, everyone's attention is on the stage. I look at the pastor's wife.
Right.
Not to judge her.
No.
Just go, what am I getting here? In fact, what we lack is we lack references now.
Yeah.
And how do we do this? If you don't start to learn how to navigate relationships in a healthy way, you will default to what's comfortable. And you have to recognize that. Most people don't act on what's healthiest. They act on what's most comfortable. And then you'll surround the comfort with a lot of good answers and reasons why.
Justifications, right.
And usually it's, I want to be loving. Oh,
Christians do this a lot. I need to just have grace.
Right. Exactly.
It's like,
and so
no.
it gets twisted to then justify the fact that we're afraid. We're afraid to deal with something. We're afraid to make a decision.
Yeah.
So if you're in a toxic relationship, you recognize it's toxic and you're afraid to do anything. That's something that has to be dealt with up front. It's like recognizing, fear is a driving force. Fear is a driving factor. And I need to deal with that because what is it? What are you afraid of? You're afraid of being hurt, afraid of failure, most people are afraid of making relational decisions because it's like what the person's going to do to me. And then if I have to move forward or I have to make new decisions, I don't know that I can handle that stage.
Right.
Right. So we retreat back to what's comfortable. It's yuck. It's gross. It's toxic, but it's what I know. So we'll just kind of stay back.
Yeah.
And I think at the core of it, what a toxic relationship will do is not only challenge your references, your fears, it also challenges how you see yourself. Because in our work with people, we don't jump to here's the 3 decisions you need to make.
Yeah.
Here's kind of the 5 steps. It's really more, well, let's work on you. Let's work on allowing God to love you, show you who he is, show you his power, help you heal through areas. And then out of that, it helps to ignite your perspective. Because just giving you a quick 3 steps of what to do, you'll repeat those things in future relationships. You'll repeat the same patterns. You'll find yourself in the same kind of relational circles.
Yeah, and when you can have confidence in your decisions, even though it can still hurt, there is an empowerment and a boldness that can happen that you go, okay, I know this hurts, but this is the best for me.